cut of meat, all right? Same thing with roofing products. There's really good products out there. There's really bad products out there. My job is to explain to you which are good, which are bad.
Okay.
All right? And then old age. This is kind of where you're at. Once you have an old roof, honestly, you have all three. You have bad products and you have poor installations because roofing has evolved as time has gone on. Older products are now inferior to what you have now, and older installation methods are inferior to what we do now.
Okay.
All right? So we shield you from the poor installation, the inferior products, and the old age, and we protect you from the extreme weather that we see every day. Right?
Excellent.
Does that make sense?
100%.
So the first
And
thing
that's how we want our roofs to die, old age,
absolutely.
right? And it's the old age that our roofs are dying from because of what we do to the underside of the decking.
Okay?
Alright.
So the first thing you get on your job is a project manager. Something not many companies actually offer. You sign a job, they say, okay, one day a crew shows up, and you're like, what's going on? Our project manager is there from start to finish. He's the first one on the job, he's the last one to leave. He has your contract, he has everything. He is your liaison during the job to ensure everything goes smoothly. His job is to not lift the hammer. His job is to make sure that your roof, everything that I talk about today, is done correctly. But he's also in charge of the dumpster, the permit closing and opening, the material delivery, scheduling. He's there to ensure that the crew is doing what they're supposed to, that they're being safe, that they're taking care of your house, your property, and doing the job correctly. If a building, how much do you know about building code?
I'm not very familiar with building at all. Actually,
Okay.
my father-in-law built this house for my wife.
Oh, that's not, wish that would happen to me. So, say a building inspector drives by, or they know that the job is going on today because we have an open permit. And they come up and they start asking you, because you're the homeowner, if certain things are being done about the roof. How good of an answer are you gonna be able to give them?
Nothing.
Nothing. Then he's gonna go and ask the crew. Now, our crews are excellent, but unfortunately, not many of them speak very good English. It's just the way of the world. The best roofers in the world are Ecuadorian. They work hard, they are meticulous at what they do, but you know, this is an expanded world. Not everybody speaks the same language. So now there's gonna be crossing language, something like that could happen. Our project managers are there to handle everything. You don't have to worry about building code, you don't have to worry about what is being done on your roof, if it's gonna pass inspection or not. They're there to alleviate every single issue and fix any issue that should come up during the installation that may have been unforeseen.
That's awesome.
Okay? Secondly, safety. No one wants to get hurt on a job site. Roofing statistically is the third most dangerous job in the country. Okay, you got the guys who climb the high wires, and you got the tuna fishermen or the deep sea guys out in Alaska. Then roofing. Roofing is very dangerous. It's why it's the most expensive in insurance reasons as well. So we want to make sure that nothing happens on our job. You got stuff falling off the roof, you got people climbing all over the roof, you got all these things that could potentially go wrong. And if you don't pay attention to them, it is going to be a bad day for you, it is going to be a bad day for me, it's going to be a bad day all around. You don't want somebody falling off your roof. So depending on the pitch of the roof, you need certain tie downs and harnesses and everything. We do it on all of our jobs just because we want to take that extra step of safety and precaution. But there are certain OSHA standards, depending on the steepness of your roof, where you have to have certain tie downs and strength to ensure that no one gets hurt. It's also really important, if that building inspector comes by and he sees that you're not doing that job correctly, that the guys are not being safe, he could shut you down right there. Now your roof is not done, everything is open, there's no work being done, and you're left just holding a piece of paper going, what is going on? Okay, and I don't think you want that, do you?
No.
All right. And if there's any questions you might have during the entire presentation, please let me know.
So the project manager, I'll be assigned one?
Yes, so once the contract is signed by you, we get your deposit. That goes to our production office in Carlos. Carlos then looks at the schedule, sees when we have our opening, and what project managers are available. That project manager then goes and calls you and says, hey, Mr. Griffin, we got you on this, this is Austin from Brown Roofing, I'm your project manager. This is my first open date, does that work for you? You say
Excellent.
yes, and then he handles it from there. He'll let you know when the dumpster's being delivered and the material being delivered as well.
How about the closing of the permit?
The closing of the permit is done during during the job, the project managers, they're taking all the photos, okay? He's flying drones over the house, he's taking photos of absolutely everything, all the specific necessities for the, building department so they can close the permit. We have a woman in our office, her name's Grace. We changed her name. There are too many Kims, apparently. So Grace handles all the permits, okay? She takes them, she sends all the information to the building department with pictures and documentation and invoices and all that, so that they can just close out the permit.
Okay.
Okay.
So you got one person that's involved with permits.
Yeah, and she's fantastic at what she does, so, you know, she knows codes for really every town, because every town is a little bit different, you know, and building inspectors, they're crazy, like the Seymour building inspector, he works like 2 days a week for like 3 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
So, getting in touch with him, it's tough, but we handle everything, never have to worry about it. So once we get to the job, we show up around 7 o'clock, and we start staging the property. We're gonna walk around your house, project manager's gonna have your contract with you, he's gonna go over certain things, and then we're gonna look at your foliage around your house, your bushes, your patios, all that stuff. I saw that really nice patio you just had installed in the back of your house, we went over it. I just had one of those done too, I know how expensive they can get. Shingles are a dangerous game, all right? They're very heavy, they're very destructive, I don't wanna destroy any of that, all right? So we're gonna show up, we're gonna make sure everything's protected, and the first thing we do is I'm gonna take plywood. I'm gonna use the plywood to manage where the shingles are coming off the roofs, all right? I don't want any plywood coming down and destroying your bushes. You got that really nice Japanese maple sitting there, those things are very expensive. A bundle of shingles will destroy it and you will not be happy. I could do the best job in the world on your roof. I could install it perfectly and never have any issues. But if I leave your home looking like a war zone afterwards, that's gonna be your lasting memory of my company. And that is the last thing I want. So we're gonna take this is our most important step to us, is protecting your home and protecting your property. All right, so we're gonna take this plywood, we're gonna put it everywhere we need, all right? Then we're gonna install these big black tarps all at your eaves. They go right above the gutter, they get nailed to the roof, all right, and they get tied off. These are really thick, really expensive tarps. They're not the tarps you buy in Home Depot, all right? They're not there to protect a pile of wood and get a hole in them. These things are meant for shingles. They are probably 3 to 4 times as thick as your standard tarp that you would get. As I said, they're very expensive, but they do the job.
Are they breathable?
They are breathable, actually. That's another thing about them is, if you were to take one of those blue tarps, put it over a patch of grass or a bush in front of your house, that sunlight is going to heat it up like a greenhouse, maybe even hotter. It's actually it can burn a hole in your patch or in your grass in a couple hours.
Wow.
Okay, these things allow air to flow through them, all right, and that's gonna keep your bushes, your grass, everything really nice and comfortable, not hot, it's not gonna overheat anything, it's not gonna burn anything out, and it's gonna keep everything looking the way it is.
Because that maple is very, very important to me, and the landscaping, obviously, as you can see, is very pristine, and that's very, very, very important to me.
Absolutely, my first job, actually, when I was 13, was on a landscaping farm, so my job was to make sure all the plants were healthy on the farm before they got brought to job sites. I know how expensive those things are, and the last thing I wanna do is destroy them.
Excellent.
Okay? So then we start stripping your roof. All right, all the shingles are gonna come off. You're gonna get some companies that are gonna tell you, oh, you just slap another layer on there. It's the last thing you wanna do, and it's something we do not do at Brown Roofing, even if you wanna pay me to do it. Okay? Can't fix anything, can't take care of anything, can't make sure the wood is good, there's no flashing that can be done properly. So we always strip it down to the wood, all right?
And the reason you wouldn't go over one is because you couldn't see the wood?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see the wood, you wouldn't be able to tell if it's nailable or not, hidden rot damage. You can't properly seal things, on the dormers here, you wouldn't be able to put the ice and water barrier up those dormers or up chimneys to properly flash them. You wouldn't be able to upgrade the different codes that we're gonna talk about, and, just really secure and enhance the roof. That's why you don't ever wanna do that.
Okay.
And it actually voids every single shingle manufacturer warranty on the market is if you, put a layer on top of a layer. The nails aren't going in properly, nothing is secured underneath. So People who do that, you get a 0-day warranty.
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
I did not know that.
So then once we start stripping, you're actually gonna see here, we got a nice wheelbarrow, all right? We start cleaning up as soon as we start making a mess. Doesn't seem like a big thing, but it actually is. The last thing you want is to have a roofing crew on your roof, working all day, slinging shingles, they're not light, and then having to come down to clean the job at the end of the project. It's how you get a shoddy job, okay? It's how you get a shoddy cleanup. If you're asking guys who have been working hard all day to now finish and then go clean up, they're gonna be corners cut. We clean up our job as we go, all right? That way, honestly, your yard is cleaned up before the roof is even finished installed, okay?
Happy site, clean site, happy site.
Absolutely. There you can see everything completely taken off the roof, all right? Once we have everything stripped down, then we assess your decking, okay? There are a lot of things that can go wrong with wood. And a good, I've been in your attic, your wood looked good, I wouldn't worry about it. But when I strip off that roof, the top of the shingle, or the wood, may look different than the bottom of the wood. There's certain things called delamination of the plywood where water gets in the seams and breaks down the glue. So that could cause an issue, and you can't tell that from underneath. Unfortunately, when you're doing a roof, there can be some unforeseen circumstances that come up. That's also why you have your project manager. They're there to document, give you a phone call, shoot you some pictures on your cell phone, make sure you're up to date with everything, okay? This is also the only time my price will change, is if I rip off the roof and I need some new wood, all right? So, this can happen, you know? You got some bad wood.
What is that?
That is your eave, okay? What that is from is, that's a very old roof, all right, that was taken off. That's, you know, barn wood, tongue and groove. That's water that is backed up from your gutter and come up underneath into your fascia and soaked into the wood and caused rot at the edge of your house,
Okay.
okay? Another good picture of it right there. I can go all over your roof. This is in your soffit. I wasn't able to get down there. It could look like that, okay? It's why we always strip off your roof. Now, if you wanted to go over that roof, do you think that would have been fixed?
No,
No.
alright, that makes sense.
Then you get a plywood roof. So clearly this house has been updated at least, or it's, you know, from the 70s on. It's had shingles on it. This is actually improper installation of ice and water barrier. Okay, everybody thinks ice and water barrier is a protective layer there, but unfortunately the majority of roofers install it incorrectly. Okay, so what can happen is this water has actually gotten underneath it. Maybe it wasn't laid down properly. The water has come up from your gutters, maybe some ice damming. Maybe they used a lesser grade, there were holes in it, and water is just,
Maybe they didn't even use it.
maybe they didn't even use it, but, you know, it is what it is, unfortunately. And it's a commonality in roofing, and I don't think you want that. And then once again, you can see the water. The eaves are very, very vulnerable. Your eaves are where your gutters are, okay, they're the flats, all right? They're very, very vulnerable because that's where your gutters are. And if your gutters get snow, ice, leaves, anything, and you're not cleaning them, water can sit in there, back up through where the two pieces of wood meet and cause an issue. Now, what I mean by that, oh God, I'm getting old. All right, so you got two pieces of wood. You have your fascia board, which is where your gutters are secured onto. Then you have your plywood from your roof. See that gap?
Yeah.
See that gap? What's stopping anything from getting in there?
Nothing.
Nothing, okay? And that's how the majority of roofs are installed today. Nothing is stopping from getting water in there. So, what happens is, the water gets in, it escapes from the gutters through your soffits. It can even travel through your soffits. That overhang you have, it can even travel through that into your house and cause leaks inside your house, okay? Wanna know how I know?
Oh,
Because I'm a terrible roofer and it happened to me.
wow, well, thanks for giving me that.
I'm a do as I say, not a do as I do. I didn't clean out my gutters, okay? I haven't replaced my roof in about 15, 20 years. It's coming up on the time, luckily I know again, all right?
Okay.
One day we had a heavy rain, I didn't clean out my gutters properly. That water came in through my soffit and caused a nice bubble in my freshly painted living room.
Okay.
All right, wasn't the best thing to do. I should have been more proactive in it, but I wasn't, all right? But these are the things that can happen, and it can happen to anybody, all right? We do replace the decking as needed, all right? If we find any rotted wood, any unnailable decking, it gets replaced. I will never install a roof on top of that wood, because that is a really good way to ensure that that roof will not last, okay? If I have to replace any wood, it is $90 a sheet. And I do not use particle board, okay? I use 4-ply CDX plywood. This stuff is what most IKEA pieces are made out of, okay? You don't ever want to put this on a roof. It is not really an exterior plywood. What happens is once you put a nail hole in this, it really compromises the integrity of the piece of wood, and it can cause, and through the back, it actually explodes. The nail will explode this, and it's just a bad look.
When you say explode, what do you mean?
The wood basically just explodes out the back, okay? And you'll just see pieces of the wood. You ever put together a piece of wood from or a piece of furniture from IKEA or Walmart, maybe a little
Yeah.
shelf? The little wooden dowels, really, like, they can cause damage to this stuff. Now,
Okay.
you know, do you want that on your roof?
No.
No. The 4-ply CVX plywood is durable. It's actually meant to shed water. It's 4 pieces of wood run in different grains, and it is glued together, okay? So you can actually spray this with water with a hose. It will not rot. This stuff gets damaged by water getting in the seams, okay? So nails go through this. They have a really good grip on it. Very, very strong, very, very durable, and it's what should be used, okay? It's a little more expensive than this. That's why a lot of roofers use this to save money, but this is where it's at. This is what you want on your roof. And luckily, it's what you have right now, okay? And we can match whatever size and thickness it is.
Hey, if I could real quick, right? So in this process, right, the wind is the enemy, man. You know, and we have to keep trying to implement the parts of the wind, right? Wind and storms are really what break down roofs outside of bad installation. So CDX plywood and OSB plywood, right? OSB on a nail pull test, you can pull a nail out of OSB with about 20 pounds of pressure, right? The pull resistance of a nail with CDX plywood, like literally to pull it out, right? We're talking 70 pounds of pressure to get a nail out of CDX, right? I've done tests myself inside of my facility where I've stood on pieces of 1/2-inch CDX, right? And I started with 16 on center. I moved them out to 2 feet. I moved them out to 3 feet. I thought I was gonna fall to the ground with the 1/2-inch, and when I stepped on the OSB, it snapped. So the strength behind it is incredible. So for the exterior of the house, right? OSB in certain wind areas, that you can't use this. If you were engineering a building in an area where you had high winds, OSB wouldn't even be in the engineer's chart, because what we're trying to do is make sure that the materials that are being put down in a wind zone have the best chance to not blow off. So that's why we use CDX. And the disadvantage to this product here, if it gets wet, it swells, right? So when this product swells, it will never take its shape back. So when you're looking at a nice, neat roof, you can see these bumps and swells, or if it was a metal roof, you know, it would telegraph through with some oil canning. So those are the reasons, you know, that we use CDX. And based off of what you now know about the 2 products, which would you prefer we use?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do. So if you start from the very beginning on wind is the enemy, right? And why these roofs fail is typically due to wind or inferior installation. And the whole time we're sticking with the wind. The wind, the hail, you guys that are working in these storm places, right? That's what we're trying to get people to understand.
All right, so now, not all plywood is bad, okay? The roof, you don't have really any leaks, your roof is just old age, okay? So, there's one thing that we do that kind of starts to separate us from everybody else. You know, when we were in your attic, I showed you this, right? You had different nails where the plywood wasn't even nailed into anything. I was able to push that plywood in the attic, and it's moving. The problem with that is the plywood is the foundation, the structural foundation of your house, okay? If the foundation, if your basement foundation shifted during any type of windstorm, would that be good for your home?
No.
No. Same thing applies to the roof. Every time we get these heavy winds, every time we get this heavy snow, these heavy rains, your wood is moving. Do you think your roof is going to last if your wood continues to move?
No.
No. So what we do as a company, first thing we do is we back nail your entire roof decking, okay? Seems very simple, but what it's doing is it's stabilizing the structural integrity of your home. It's enhancing it. I'm gonna strip off the roof. I'm gonna find the joists in your framing. I'm gonna snap a chalk line from the top to the bottom, and I'm gonna back nail your roof with a 2.5-inch ring shank nail. Okay? You know what a ring shank nail is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
So, once we put that in, I'm gonna make sure your decking is secured, I'm gonna make sure none of the plywood is off of those joists, and that you have a strong foundation to install the roof,
Excellent.
okay? Once I have your decking secured, that's when we put our first step into it, okay? That is our ice and water barrier. Your ice and water barrier by code has to go, where's Jeremy? 24 inches from the outermost wall of the home. 1.5 feet on each side of any valleys, up your sidewalls, up your dormers, up your chimneys, everywhere where you're most vulnerable for wind or water and ice damage, or ice damage, okay? Now, once again, there are many different products out here. This is the ice and water barrier that most roofers are going to use on your home. This is a granulated asphalt ice and water barrier, okay? It's an okay product, all right, but it doesn't really last. Part of the reason for it is because if you were to take it and wrap it up a chimney, it's very hard to get a 90-degree angle on this, okay? So all the time, it's just gonna keep moving like this, all right? It's not actually meant to be bent. It's also pretty thin. Do me a favor, rip that in half.
Hey, if you guys could, right, I put some pieces out there in front of you, and if you start to make like a transition to go up a wall, right, like just a couple times with that product, you'll see that product will start to break down. A lot of times your flashing, you know, is going up a wall, and this is a moisture barrier, right? Roofs do sweat, roofs do condensate. And if you break down this product in these vulnerable spots, I'm sure you could see just right now how you're breaking down that product as soon as you install it. You know, so, and then obviously you could take it and rip it. You know, it's not a good product at all. And now you can take our product and bend it and twist it.
Is that granulated ice and water self-gasket or no?
No,
No,
we'll get to that.
nope, not at all.
So, when we started our network, Cloud Roofing System, we came upon our Sealer on XT ice and water barrier. This is a rubberized asphalt, synthetic felt ice and water barrier. Obviously off the look, you can see that there's a felt on top of it, correct?
Yep.
This is gonna make sure synthetic felt, it doesn't rip, it doesn't tear, it doesn't break down like this. This can go in any angle, it can go in any valley, it can go anywhere, and it's gonna create a perfect angle and a perfect seal, so you don't have to worry about any movement. It's also never gonna be able to break down over time because of the synthetic felt. There's no granulation on it. Then, what I mean by rubberized is on the back of this, it is a very stretchy piece of material. See that? What do you think's gonna happen when a nail goes through this?
I don't know.
It's gonna create a beautiful seal around it. It's gonna self-gasket, all right? It's gonna be very, very stretchy, and it's gonna, so now when we put those nails through, it creates a seal. It's not gonna happen, I don't know, because sometimes when it's cold, it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
When you put a hole through this, there's no, I can't do it. There's no seal around it. There's no rubber in it, because I have more rubber in my product than actual asphalt. So it creates a flexibility to it that is gonna ensure that it seals properly, and when everything heats up and everything's sealed, you never have to worry about it. Now, the reason that's important is because when I install it, I'm putting it down first. Remember that picture I showed you where I said, it was improper installation of ice and water barrier?
Yeah, with the fascia.
With the fascia and everything. So what most roofers do, and you go on a roof, you're gonna see your drip metal down first, okay? Then they're gonna take their ice and water barrier and put it on top of the ice and water barrier. Remember that gap I showed you between the two pieces of wood? Remember that gap I showed you between the two pieces of wood?
Yeah.
Okay? It's gonna go like this. If this lifts up and the ice and water barrier is on top of this, okay? Like this. And this lifts up. What's protecting you from ice dam or wind-driven rain or anything along those lines?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right, so this water is still gonna be able to get into your house. It's still gonna be able to cause you problems. This is how the majority of roofs have been installed and are still installed to this day, okay?
So the benefits, man, you know, is really like the scare, I'm getting nervous. Like when we wrapped it, the benefits to what we're doing is getting this ice and water shield down onto the fascia, right? And what this is doing is you have a soffit, and on that soffit you have a fascia. And where the gutter is anchored to the fascia, whether you're in snow country or not in snow country, or you're dealing with leaves, heavy microbursts, whatever, somebody that just doesn't clean their leaves. Where the fascia board stands and is mounted, you have the decking that is mounted. And typically where the decking is mounted, this isn't sealed, right? This isn't metal, this isn't welded, there is a gap here. And the drip metal lies right here, right? So what we do to ensure that whether it's ice and snow never backs up into this space, we take our ice and water shield and we wrap it down onto the fascia, right? And what this ensures is we're terminating this area right inside your gutter, so when it does fill up with water, ice, snow, nothing can get in here. And if you look at the way that traditional roofs are put on, where they put on all the outside edge metal first, and you nail down your ice and water, what happens when the ice and snow and weather builds up in the gutter, it can lift this up. And now this first 4 inches, 5 inches of the decking isn't protected, but also this vulnerable area where the ice and snow can back in, or just rain can back in. So what we're doing is terminating this, right? Another huge thing that Jeffrey's talking about, you take this ice and water shield and puncture it with a nail and pull a nail out. This is not self-sealing. You know, this does not gasket around the nail at all. And when you look at our products, and we're talking about these vulnerable areas, right, and the elasticity of our ice and water shield, what this does is actually seal around the nail. Now guys, you could get other people to bring their ice and water to the table. They don't work like this one, right? So this sealing around the nail, and if you could imagine when it gets warm and it gets hot, you know, that actually seals around that nail. And if you did have an ice damming situation in a roof like ours with our product, it's gonna stop from that dripping in the inside. And that's the difference between our product and everybody else's. When you get into the folding, right, to go up walls, you can bend this product 100 times and you're never gonna break the product down.
you could wrap it over the edge, you're never gonna get this product to break down. If you did it with that product, you would see, you know, how easily it breaks down. Go ahead.
That's a perfect substitute for Nordic too.
How far do you
Yes,
have the ice
yes.
and water over the fascia?
And so typically like an inch and a half, I mean, you don't want it to go too far, so you guys are cutting it off, but like a typical, you know, a guy on the crew might snap like a 35-inch line, you know, and then just run the top edge of the ice and water, so you have a nice even bend. He pulls his drip metal in, you know, and that whole area is terminated. And really all you wanna do is get the homeowner to understand, right? Like, hell yeah, I can see how that process is better. You know, and it really does make your roof bulletproof, because your gutters do fill up.
Yep.
It's just something that happens, whether, I mean, you got a 2x3 downspout, so if it's filled with an ice ball and it can't melt off, if you had a heavy fall and the leaves weren't clean, if you had a thunderstorm, you know, and stuff washes into the drain, it could very easily, you know, back into the inside of the home.
So we wrap our ice and water barrier down the fascia. Then we go, and this product is unable to do that because of the creasing of it. It'll just break down, won't last, and it'll cause issues on the edge of your roof. So this is gonna help protect you from that wind-driven rain that we talked about. If there are just a lot of holes in your ice and water barrier, if any water, any moisture gets underneath that roof, underneath those shingles, and yes, roofs do condensate, hot air, cold air, water can get in there, cause issues and leaks around your nails. Because of my rubberized asphalt in this, it's gonna create better seals so that doesn't happen. Once I am done with the ice and water barrier and everything is protected, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to tape the seams.
Oh, it's shit. That's not my cat.
That's what I told the cops too.
We don't have a sample of the other strip tape.
We'll present. So,
That's a code item for you guys here, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Hey, but we could, anywhere you are, if code or not code, we could show you the
The benefits.
value of this.
Absolutely.
Well, I'd just say we don't have the different strip tape to compare in Chicago, because no one else uses. We're
Oh,
the only
okay,
ones that
yeah.
use it.
Well,
Okay.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Bring a roll.
Well, we can get the other competitors.
So once we install the ice and water barrier, our next step is to tape the seams of all the plywood. This is code in Connecticut. It came around 6 or 7 years ago. And what it's meant to is to protect water from getting in the seams of the plywood. We get that heavy microburst, that heavy winded storm that rips off the shingles, maybe rips off your underlayment. Now you're gonna be protected from water getting in between the seams of the plywood. Where is plywood most vulnerable? At the seams, correct? Okay? So most roofers would use this tape, all right? You can feel the back of it here. It's really,
Yeah,
you know, it's okay, once it heats up, maybe it'll stay on. This is our Sealeron XTC tape. This is our second patent on our roof, all right? The first obviously being our Sealeron XT ice and water barrier. Nobody else can get this product. Now this stuff, I want you to feel this, if I can even get the paper off. You can feel right there. There's a big difference, right? Now even cooler, if you put this down, nice and flat on this ice and water barrier, it takes off the wood,
wow.
okay? Which do you think is gonna protect your house better?
No, that one, definitely.
That one, okay? So this goes on every seam of plywood where there is no ice and water barrier. It is gonna protect your home in case of that once in a lifetime storm, and once every 5-year storm it seems nowadays. And it's gonna go everywhere where there's a plywood seam so that no water can get in between it, okay? Everything is installed with a 3-inch overlap, as you can see here, so that no water can get up underneath it. It's not gonna cause any issues. This tape is, should I show that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, So what happened is,
You can speed it up.
yeah, I'm gonna speed it up. So they built this house, okay, and they put it into this facility in Florida to simulate a Class 5 hurricane, Category 5 hurricane. And that's what happens to roofs. They taped half of the roof, and they didn't tape the other half. So you see all the shingles ripping off everywhere. There's commonality. This is what happens during big storms, okay? So what happened was, everywhere where there was seam tape, or there wasn't seam tape, water just came pouring into the roof, all right? Insulation came down, whole house is ruined. On the other half, very little water came in, the ceilings were good, nothing happened. No, I mean, you still need a new roof, but the protection, because of this simple step, can save your house and save you from a lot of problems. Whereas instead of just needing a new roof, you need a new house if you don't do it. Okay? And I don't think anybody wants to go through that. Once we do the seam tape, we install your next underlayment. Okay? Because of the age of your roof, this is what you have. This is tar paper. Glorified construction paper. The only thing this is good for is to give your kids an hour to color. All right?
15-pound film.
It's very, very thin. It's basically paper soaked in tar. Give that a good rip.
Yeah. You can tell it's flimsy.
It is very. Do you think that's gonna do a good job protecting your roof?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, you put any type of hole in here. The problem with this is, once this goes on, the guys are still walking on the roof. Okay, it's held on by staples. It's gonna move, it's gonna rip, it's gonna tear, it's not gonna protect anything. Also, it actually absorbs water, which is what you don't want on your roof, correct? All right, so once we install the seam tape, we go and we install our next step, which is our synthetic felt. This is our Valora 1 synthetic felt. This is an indestructible piece of material. It is waterproof, it is breathable, it will last for 100 years, and I will put your roof on for free if you can rip that with your big hands.
Damn. Eddie's trying. Eddie needs it to roof. Come on, Eddie.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Okay? This is the product that is going to keep your roof healthy. Now, there are some roofers out there, in certain situations, they want to install ice and water barrier on the whole roof, okay? It's gonna take out the steps of the seam tape. It's gonna take out the steps of the synthetic felt, but it's also gonna do more damage in the long run if you were to ice and water barrier your whole house. I call it the lazy way of doing a roof because you're not taking extra steps. What it's gonna do, it's actually going to seal all the moisture inside your attic. And then when you get those crazy hot days where your roof is 150 degrees, the moisture that's supposed to be in the plywood is actually going to get sucked out. And then you're gonna have dry rot. When it's dry rot, you can literally pull nails out of your plywood with your fingertips, okay? So, the synthetic felt not only is waterproof and protects your home if, God forbid, you lose any shingles, it's gonna make it sure everything is protected, but it also allows the wood to breathe, the wood to stay healthy, and keep that certain moisture percentage in it so that your roof lasts forever. Which products would you rather prefer on your home?
This one.
That one? Makes sense, right?
Hey, one thing I want, because I think we gotta stick with the fortifying the roof decking, man. This is, we're preparing this roof for the 1 in 5, there's valuable points for all these materials and all these products, right? The stripping of the tape on your seams, right? If something blows off of the house, if a shingle came off, right, and we're dealing with a microburst, what we're trying to do is we're preparing this decking, right? If the shingle does come off, if we strip in all the seams, if we do everything right, the metals
are around the decking. We strip in our metals with our tape. If a shingle comes off of this roof, it's still sealed. The roof is still protected. The damn nails are actually still in where the shingle came off. So what we're trying to put the confidence in the homeowner that the difference in what we're doing here is we're fortifying this roof decking. So when that 1 in 5 comes, which it will, right? It's a matter of time. Storms are only getting worse. That the inside of your home, the things that matter the most to you, are protected, right? And that's what we're doing when we talk about fortifying the roof decking, right? I would spend more time building value on what it is that we're doing right here in front of you. There's a few things that the products do, and there's a few things that the customer's products don't do, right? The benefits to working on a roof like this roof is 60 degrees cooler than our competitors' roofs, right? And why might that concern you? Because I can guarantee you, if you wanted to work on my job across the street and it's 100 degrees out, my guys are in a completely different environment than the guys across the street that are working in 160 degree weather. Right, so huge benefits in doing a roof one way and doing a roof the other way. Right, when you look at our metals, right, and our metals are 50% longer, 50% wider, right? Why is that important to you guys? Or to the homeowner? Right, because the metals are what terminate all this work that we just did on the decking. The metal is actually what terminates the roofing system, the underlayments to the decking. And metal needs to be nailed in a certain way, right? If any of you guys were carpenters or know anything about nailing's supposed to be done in a certain pattern for strength and rigidity, right? You can't do this on these metals. You can't do it, there ain't enough room. You know, you got half of the metal is the overhang, so you can't nail there. You know, and then by the time you do nail here, it's in a straight line. So this metal itself, you know, isn't strong. And when you talk to a homeowner, right, like why would this benefit them by us putting our metals on the top side? So if you can imagine that same situation, right, and you did like most contractors do with their metals on first, and now you take a shingle off, right? A shingle just blows off the side of the house. Well, now you have all these underlayments, right, that are flapping in the freaking wind. And when this underlayment goes, your home is exposed. You know, and if the seams aren't taped off at this point, where the two plywoods meet, anywhere there's a seam, all that water is rushing into the home. And by just doing this one step, whether it's building code or not building code, it's very easy to see, Jeffrey, on how this will save your home versus the standard procedures that most people are doing. And when it comes to your home and your family, can you see how our system's gonna protect you better than anybody else's? Right, and we get these little confirmations, man, and not so much maybe like scared, you know, on it, but like building some serious value in our stuff, our processes, our systems, and the disadvantages to the others. As quick and smooth as we humanly possibly can.
So my go-to line is, you know, we're not only gonna restore the rigidity of your home, we're gonna restore your peace of mind and knowing that the health and welfare of your family is protected against all these crazy storms, you know?
100%. And guys, if you do this the right way, right, if the crews fortify the decking the right way, it will make all the difference in the world in that 1 in 5, that 1 in 10. On what we do underneath, anybody can go buy an ICO Dynasty and put 6 nails in it and call it a day. You know, it's this stuff right here. It's our products, it's our strip tape, it's our metals, it's that whole process putting it together that makes the difference. And that's what you want. That's what you want to harp on the sale.
Can you explain a little bit more about the 60% cooler?
So a black roof, right? You have a black roof versus a white roof. And a black roof is gonna be 60 degrees warmer, 50 to 60 degrees warmer than a white roof in the middle of the summer. So that's where we come up
With the granulated ice and water, you mean? So
with the granulated, yep, with this roofing system right here, you're gonna be 60 degrees warmer than this system here in the sun, in the dead of the summer. So this roof here is a cooler roof to work on when you're doing installation. It's a cooler environment to work in. You know, if you looked up them stats, right, working on a black roof versus a white roof, you know, it's there. But that's, I mean, and if you guys were putting roofs on, wouldn't you like to be in a cooler environment? If you have worked on a roof like I have, that's a tough place to work. And what happens when it's 130, 140, 160, you're moving, man. We gotta get off of this roof, and we gotta get hydrated. So it's a better environment to work in. I'm sorry.
The drip metal and the rake metal was the next thing that was going on.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Alright, so, once we have all your underlayments down, we're gonna go and we're gonna install new drip metal and new rake metal around the entire perimeter of your roof. This prevents water from kind of wicking back up off the edges of your roof to ensure that it doesn't get into the edges of the plywood. This is the standard roofing metals that most roofers use in this area, okay?
Definitely kind of flimsy.
Definitely kind of flimsy. So they go down on your roof like such. Now, as I said, we put everything underneath. A lot of roofers still install the ice and water barrier on top of the roof because they don't want to create a lip that goes on top of this where water or condensation can freeze or cause issues. And that's from the manufacturers. They actually tell them to do that. So when we do ours, because we wrap it down the fascia, we take an extra step that I'll explain in a second. But this is the ice and water, or the drip and the rake metal that I use. Can you tell a difference?
It looks a lot bigger.
It looks a lot bigger.
So what is the difference in bigger?
So it's about 50% larger than that. It's also thicker. And then even down the fascias, you can see that it protects extra down the fascia boards as well. Okay, so this is gonna make sure that the water drips properly over, drips into your gutters where necessary, and doesn't allow the water to come up. One of the reasons we wanted to use a wider drip and rake metal is so that we can secure your edges, because one of the most vulnerable parts on the roof are your edges. You know, that's where the wind is hitting in multiple areas so that it can lift sections. So when we install this, we take nails and we actually nail in a staggered pattern around the entire roof, because now you got 2 rows of nails on your drip and your rake metal rather than 1. It's gonna make it a lot more secure around the edges, and you can't really do it with these. Okay? Then we go and take the extra step and we tape all of our seams of our metal. It's called stripping in the metal. We take our same seam tape and we actually cover 50% on the metal, 50% on the roof, and this is going to ensure that no water, any condensation, any wind-driven rain that could possibly get under the shingles, because shingles are meant to shed water, they're not meant to hold it. Any water that comes up is not going to be able to get underneath any of this and cause any issues. And secondly, now this acts as a termination bar. It's going to fortify the edges of the roof. It's going to make sure that the nails, all the underlayments, everything is secure around the edges. This is extraordinarily important because this synthetic felt is, as we saw, indestructible. If this were to be installed on top of the rake metal like this, and we get a heavy windstorm that could get under this, it'll rip a very nice straight line out of your roof. The shingles will come off, the synthetic felt will come off because it's just gonna rip through everything, because the nails cannot get pulled through this. So we use this as a termination bar to secure the edges of your roof and make sure that there's no way wind or rain or anything is gonna get underneath.
You guys understanding that? So like what we're doing here is when we put this metal on to fortify the synthetics, we have nails now that we're putting into the metal to hold this down, to make sure when that 1 in 5 comes, this sucker ain't coming off. What we do to take an extra measure is we cover all of our exposed nails on the drip edge and on the rake edge, all the way down. So if a shingle, like I said, came off, that deck is still protected. Anybody that's done this before, you're dealing with plywood, you're dealing with tongue and groove, whatever it may be, sometimes all the wood don't go directly to the end. So the guy that's using a pneumatic nailer could shoot a nail, pop in the metal, and you wouldn't even know. So if a little bit of wind-driven rain were to get underneath the rake and get into an air shot, it could potentially, you know, cause damage in the inside. So when we talk about fortifying the decking, right, we took every measure humanly possible to make sure with wind-driven rain, with ice damming, shoot, you could take a shingle off the house, and I'm sure you could see how your roof is still protected when you need it the most. That's all.
We sit there and once I explain that, I say, now, once this is done, your roof, without any shingles on top of it, is waterproof for 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, no shingle,
Wow.
no shingle, okay? It's incredible. One thing I do during your inspection, go to the rakes, because they do, the majority of the rakes look like this. Pull the rake back a little bit, and you'll find plywood. You'll see the felt, or the synthetic felt, if it's even there. You'll see that it doesn't even come to the edge of the roof, okay? All you gotta do is snap a picture of that, and you can bring it back up during this time period, and it just, this is why we do this, okay? There's no protection there.
And a lot of the times too, guys, why we put these products in here, if you're doing your inspections right, it's always gonna fall back to this same product. So when you're putting together, you're going over the findings and you're doing the investigating, these are the products that the roofs are gonna have on them. So when they're already seeing their roofs fail the way that they are, right, and then the people are still putting these products on today, you know, it's mind-opening for them. You know,
Remind me,
that's why.
does this have a certain level of fire resistance as well?
Yes, it does,
Yeah.
opposed to your
Yeah.
felt paper. There's a lot of amazing things about that. I mean, if you were working on a roof, right? And this, I know this is nothing you guys would ever see, but there's a coating on the back of this. If you took your palm and tried to push this paper off, I don't even got a staple in it. You know, and a lot of people don't know that about our product, but for the people that are walking around up on the roof, it's a major safety, you know, for us, but these are all things that we developed in this product. Here's another thing, man, that a lot of people don't touch on. You look at these grids, right? These grids are put on this synthetic felt to make sure that our rows and our courses are straight. All the guy has to do is pop one line off of a starter course and lower down his synthetic felts, and you got a straight run. When it comes to staggering a shingle, you know, making sure that we have the proper stagger, the lines are there. You know, we've taken every measure on the inside to make sure that the underlayments and the process that we have, you know, is like no other.
It's the most easily repeatable process.
What's that?
It's easily repeatable.
100%. You know, but it is the fortifying of the decking that I think we all have to get very comfortable in building.
So once we do that, as you notice, we haven't even talked about shingle yet. We haven't even really talked about much of that. It's because this is what is important. This is what makes a roof last. This is what is gonna protect you for the next 50 years, okay? So, after all the metals are done, everything is taped, we install what's called the starter strip. You have the old 3-tab shingle. Back in the day, they used to cut the shingle in half, flip it upside down. That's why when I showed you the pictures, there's no seal on the edge of your roof. That's why the 3-tab shingles only had about a 60-mile-an-hour wind warranty and only a 25-year rating. So the starter strip was developed to seal the edges of your roof to give you a 130-mile-an-hour wind warranty. Okay, sound pretty good?
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're protecting against, is your wind, your storms, everything. We're gonna give you a 130-mile-an-hour wind warranty, all right? So, what the starter strip is meant to do is it's meant to go around the entire perimeter of your roof and have the shingle seal on top of it, okay? So, once the shingle seals onto the asphalt with the starter strip, it's not supposed to be able to lift on the edges. As I said, it goes around the entire perimeter of your roof. This is the starter strip that most roofers use. This is my starter strip. See any differences in them?
Bigger and sealant.
Yes. So, basically, when you install this starter strip on the roof, they're expecting that the sealant on the back of the shingle is gonna seal to the edge of this starter strip, okay? Whether that's gonna happen or not, only time will tell. Now ours, we have a sealant strip on the top, a sealant strip on the back, so when it goes down, it matches to the sealant strip of our shingle to create and not hope that there's a seal, but it's going to make sure that there's a seal on the edge of your roof, guaranteeing that you're gonna have that 130-mile-an-hour wind warranty. The only problem with this is a very commonly misinstalled piece of material on the roof. It is supposed to have an overhang of ½ an inch from the roof to ensure that the water coming off the roof drips properly into your gutters. Then it's supposed to be nailed from 2.5 to 3 inches from that edge. Now there are a lot of things with manufacturer warranties that can cause issues done by installers. If the starter strip is not installed properly, it voids any roofing warranty you might think you have. Okay, so, and you're not gonna know if it's done right unless there's an issue that could occur. All of our guys are trained, as I talked about, to ensure that this goes on. As I said, it goes around the entire perimeter of the roof. One thing we do is we actually 45 at the edges to ensure that there's a constant seal around the entire perimeter of the roof instead of trying to overlap or possibly not have sealants. So that's one thing that one of our crews started doing, and we were like, man, that's a genius idea, we're gonna do it on all of them, okay?
So here's the difference, guys. A lot, what your typical contractor is doing, like when I used to install roofs when I was a kid, we just bought bundles, right? And you'd spin the shingle around, and sometimes you'd cut it, sometimes you wouldn't cut it, sometimes you'd save the piece for the top. But what we're getting at is this is standard practice, right? And why would this be important to you? It's because there's no sealant at the bottom. And what happens when you put a shingle on, right? A shingle seals to that sealant. If you take away the sealant, this piece of shingle here, one of the most vulnerable spots in the roof, can just be blown off. Because you can't face nail through a shingle, right? That first 5 inches, that's exposure. So there's a seal strip on the back of the shingle, a seal strip on the starter, and when the two meet, it's a perfect bond, right? But this is why training and educating are so important, because even if your average installer did use this, they don't nail the starters right. You know, they nail, close to the top of the starter so they can fit their hand underneath it. So it's super important that those nails are driven 3 inches from the bottom. So when the nails are 3 inches from the bottom, the starter isn't going anywhere. So now when you put on this face shingle, right, with the two sealants, when these meet, this whole part of the roof is now sealed because the first nails go up here. They go 5 inches up because you can't nail down here. So the proper installation of it is what we're trying to talk about here. When Jeffrey said the 45, sometimes you could get deep in detail with a homeowner when you go into 45 and stuff like that. I wouldn't for you guys, I'm clarifying. So say we left the starter like this and then we overlapped the following starter to come down. You'd have this whole edge that has no sealant. So we 45, so when we bring our next starter down, that whole outside edge has sealant all the way around it, and it's another simple practice that people just don't do. They'll start their first starter here because they're more focused on the outside edge than they are the sealant.
You know, and the ceiling is what we're trying to get across to people. Here's another big point, man, with all our products, right? When it comes to wind-driven rain, or it comes to wind-driven weather, period, what protects more is the overlap, right? So at the butt joint of a shingle, what I mean by a butt joint is this right here. If you look at where that butt joint is, there's like a 1/2 inch that separates, the shingle goes right here, the next shingle. So you have, this starter isn't even any good. So the farther back our starters go, the more protected it is from wind-driven rain. Same with our shingle, right? Our shingle is wider and longer. It's more protected against the wind-driven weather. So anyway, when you guys dive into this, man, there's simple, smooth, good things about the normal practice that people use with starter strips, and then the benefit to having a self-sealing starter strip. And Jeffrey, I'm sure knowing what you now know about starter strips, you can see how our self-sealing one is gonna be able to seal them outside edges.
Absolutely. And then another thing he showed you is because ours is wider up the roof, wider up this way, here's the nailing zone of the shingle. The starter strip that everybody else is using, that's nailing zone does not, it's over the starter strip. So because ours is so large, you get a second row of nails through the starter strip on the perimeter. This is going to enhance and secure the perimeter a lot better than what everybody else is using. So 2 rows of nails through the starter installed correctly is going to give you a much more secure edge to that wind-driven rain.
And another thing, if I could, my voice there. What I try to do is get the junk off the table, man, and build the roof. You know, and if you consistently stack what you're working on right here in front of you, and once I can say, oh yeah, I can completely see why I would go with that versus that, get rid of it. You know, get it off the table, and we just keep stacking this roof right here as we're building it.
All right, man, sign the check.
Alright, so once we go, we start to install our shingles. Alright, after the starter strip is done, your whole roof is secured, everything is fortified, you're not gonna get any water in. Now we actually install the shingles, okay? So the shingles we use and the shingles we decided on when we started the Klaus Roofing Systems are IKO Dynasty shingle. Okay, here is a sample of my IKO Dynasty, because I normally also have the trifold and everything on there. So the IKO Dynasty shingle is a shingle. It is a nice shingle. It is a manufactured shingle. It is a Canadian shingle. They have 19 plants in the United States and Canada. And it is, IKO is a family-owned company. This is also the only shingle sold in the United States that actually meets and exceeds Canadian code. So this shingle not only can be installed here, but installed in Canada, who has some of the strictest asphalt roofing codes in the world, due to their severe winds, their severe snow. They have a lot worse weather than we do. This shingle is coated that it can handle all of that weather. All the other shingle manufacturers that we have in this area, their shingles are actually not allowed to be installed there because they are not of the quality that they deem necessary to be able to handle that type of weather, okay? Part of that is this shingle is so heavy, it has 35% more asphalt in it than your leading manufacturers of GAF, Owens Corning, Serpentine. 100 square feet of an IKO shingle, or 3 bundles, weighs 233 pounds. The GAF Timberline HGZ shingle, which is, you know, one of the most popular shingles out there, only weighs 192 pounds per 100 square feet. It's a significant difference.
Why is that?
35% more asphalt in it, more sealant. The quality of the product is just better, to be honest.
let me tap you guys into this. So the reason that we chose ICO, right? When you go back to that picture with me, Larry, and Stephanie, and Klaus in the room here, we could have picked any shingle. You know, we had GAF, we had Owens Corning, we had all these guys in a meeting. The difference in this shingle is, why do you think they pulled the asphalt out, GAF and OC?
Money.
Well, they're publicly traded companies, right? They're on a ticker. And the product that they make here in the United States can't be sold in Canada because Canada, due to its stringent winter codes, a shingle has to weigh a certain amount. It doesn't meet the weight category. So they make a separate shingle and sell it in Canada to meet their building codes. So when we were going through all this stuff, we're like, damn, man, like you're an American company, but you're selling us crap, and then you sell a better product in Canada. And then one of our core values was lined up with ICO, right? In integrity. And in the integrity of ICO said, hey, listen, we weren't gonna sell an inferior product, so we stuck, you know, to our integrity, and we sold the premium product to you in the United States. So that kind of is lined with our core values. And at the end of the day, guys, it is the asphalt that protects the shingle. I don't care how you flip it up, how you weigh it, a GAF roof today. I'm an old man. I can take 3 bundles and probably put them over my head. Try and do that with the square ICO Dynasty. It isn't happening. And that is what protects you. And even having a bag, man. I mean, you got a 15-year versus a 10 across the industry, right? So ICO knows their products are better and stronger. So I just think it's important that, you know, we all understand that, because maybe not everybody has that slideshow, but there's huge power there, you know, huge power in putting these shingles, you know, into your hand. And Jeff, this is a GAF HD. You know, feel that. Give it a good, you know, what do you think about it?
It's a shingle.
Anything you like?
Got a nice color, kind of.
It is a beautiful color, close to a cedar.
Yeah.
Take a look at this. Give that a feel.
Much heavier, much thicker.
Like a little better quality.
Yeah.
You know, the granulations are more pressed into the mat.
Yeah.
You know, our own Armor Zone nailing technology. Yeah. But like, I held on to the shingle for 15 minutes and I never got the other one. You know what I mean? So I can tell it's great, but based off of what? You know? Alright, wow.
Alright, so this is the IKO Dynasty shingle. This is the leading manufactured shingle in the United States. That is a GAF Timberline HDZ shingle, okay? Majority of roofs you're gonna have that. Honestly, in my opinion, as I said, I've been doing this for 16 years. It's not really my favorite. It would actually be one of the last shingles I would install on a roof. Couple reasons for it. One, the nailing zone really bothers me. Yes, it's very low. You know, you can see, right? That's where the nail would go.
Yeah.
But there's not much to it. The nailing zone, where it meets the common bond on the shingle, is only about right there. So really, to install the shingle securely, every nail has to be right there, or it's only gonna be holding one section of the shingle, okay? Two, the bonding on the shingle. So there's a very important, you ever see this on a roof? Where
Yeah.
shingles start to drip? It's due to the fact that the sealants on these shingles,
Yeah, you can see.
okay? This is a brand new shingle, okay? Brand new shingle. How easy was I to able to pull that off? Okay, you see there's only 2 rows of sealant on it. In the IKO shingle, I have 4 rows. It is going to be very difficult for me to pull that off on this. So it's gonna give you exceptional wind rating. You're not gonna see the shingles starting to delaminate due to heavy temperatures. These shingles can handle certain pitches a lot better than this as well. The nailing zone on the IKO Dynasty shingle, this is the main thing, all right? This is called the armor zone. The armor zone is a reinforced fiberglass strip behind the nailing zone of the shingle. So when the nail goes through this, if this shingle were nailed in, and you get a heavy wind and the seal breaks on this shingle, the nails are just gonna pull right out of the shingle, okay? This one, if that were to ever happen, even though the sealant on the back is a lot more significant, so that is less of a chance as well. We get that one in heavy storm, these nails can't pull through because this is made from that same material that you could not rip. So the nails are unable to go through this shingle. Shingle as well has zinc and copper granules in it, so it's built-in algae resistance.
If I could hop in one more second. So guys, if you get to this, right, I broke thousands of these shingles apart. And what you'll see, if you could go back to that, and I've seen it, and you could see it right here for yourselves, right? You got a monster bead tar, and you got, man, of a bead tar. The inconsistency of their products throughout, whether it be no sealant, tons of sealant, little sealant, no sealant, splashes, it almost looks like when they're spreading the sealant for the double laminate, like it goes heavy in the beginning and like dies out, goes heavy, dies out. If you look at the consistency of the asphalt being spread on the Ico Dynasty shingle, I mean, the quality control and the amount that they're putting into this and the consistency of each line is huge. So when you get to this, spend some time. Here's another thing, when you're trying to build a case, right, between your inspection, these are things that we look for. Anybody that's been on a roof, you could see this missing on a GAF OC all day long. And this is where you're building that evidence of going over the findings. Because you could talk about that and say, hey, we're gonna touch back on that later on why that's so important. And when you think about it, right, this is a 50-year shingle. That's not. You know what I mean? So, it's the way that the products are made, and you can very easily, I keep one of these in my bag that's already a little broken up, so they can actually see that consistency. And when I tell you I've done it 1,000 times, it's always, especially GAF, it's always that way. Another thing, just for food for the brain, right? This shingle here, prior to, they moved this line up, I think like 2 years ago. They put this tiny perforation in the back of it and said, now, because of this perforation, you can nail anywhere. 2 years ago, if you nailed anywhere outside of that common bond, it was no good. But the reason that they did this was because they're dealing with IKO, who's tearing up market share, and they're dealing with OC, who's tearing up market share because of the armor zone and the sure nailing technology. So these guys took added a roller to a dimpler to their line and just ran it down and called it a day. Right, because they know this roof, even on their warranty, right, it's one-time transferable. They know the average homeowner doesn't live in a house for more than 7 years. This roof is designed, and they know that it's never gonna make that 50. And then for the one in a bunch that do, just roll it in the overall loss of the sales, you know, nationwide. Because the majority of homes, people anyway, will never stay in it for that 50-year period.
And another thing on the nailing zone is because they moved it up, there is nothing here. There are no granules here. There's no sealant here. This is literally tar paper, okay? So that nailing zone where all those nails are supposed to go is literally just tar paper. The IKO has the reinforced fiberglass strip, so you can't rip it, you can't tear it, you can't break it down. What's gonna hold the nail better, right? Now, we can install, copper-coated granules, so that when it rains, the shingles and that copper oxidizes, and then it runs down your roof. So all those black algae streaks you get, not gonna happen anymore. okay? Same thing why you don't have, that streaking below your copper chimney, is because when it rains, it kills all that bad stuff, all that algae, all that moss, all that lichen. Now these shingles have, the granules are coated in copper, so when it rains, it gets rid of all that stuff. Keeps your roof healthier in the long run, no growth, nothing along those lines.
Do you guys understand this? Do you guys understand the slide?
What?
How do you pronounce that?
What? Oh, Glowio Magma.
Okay, Glowio Caspa Magma.
So if you guys look at this, what you're looking at here, and how we started to understand what was happening was all these old roofs that we were driving by that had copper flashings or had lead coated or zinc of some sort, none of this algae was growing. So the only difference here, from here to here, is this has copper flashing. So it's not allowing this lichen and this algae and this Macalaca maxim to grow.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
But anyway, I just want to make sure you guys understand that, because it's very easy to explain
Yes.
from there why we incorporated copper.
I got home to my subdivision, I've seen that,
I didn't know that.
and I know, now, I'm gonna put a little thing, but they got Glowio Capsa Magma going on.
That's Jeremy.
Hey, and if you
Oh, no doubt,
So
no
if you
doubt.
look at this, right, this is stainless steel. You know, and that's the reason that you're seeing the lichen and the algae. These are copper, and that's the reason you're seeing that original, you know, colored roof.
You see a lot of these homes, you know, people be like, oh, I was told to just put zinc strips under my ridge vent. Terrible idea. But that is to get rid of this algae. So,
Why is that a terrible idea?
because you're nailing extra holes and it's not part of the shingle, and it's just gonna cause issues, and a lot of the times they're not very secured well, so you'll see them in big storms just ripped right off, and it's a waste of money.
And I could give you even more of a one-up, like the real reason that the zinc strip, for me, right, like we're talking wind, we're talking ceiling. If you try to put caulk on zinc, it's just gonna wipe off, you know, so when that shingle is supposed to flap down on that zinc strip that you slide underneath, it's never gonna seal. You know, so you're being told you gotta put one at the ridge, then another zinc strip or copper strip 10 feet down from that, and another 10 feet down from that. So if you were gonna pull into your house and look at these zinc or copper strips going across, and then you're actually affecting the system by breaking that seal in 3 different places. It's just it's bad practice, and you will have problems with those. I've had problems where I've installed zinc strips before these shingles were made, and every time it turned into a nightmare for me.
Biggest reason it's already an old roof.
Exactly, it's already got the lichen, the mold, the algae on it.
What do you guys think about the spray wash?
The Roof Max or whatever.
Yeah.
So that stuff, I did some research because one of the guys came to me once.
Wright Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but there's new stuff, Roof Max, where you spray your roof and it like seals everything in.
Basically paint.
Yes, so what the problem with it is, it's actually meant for roofs that are 5 to 10 years old, and you have to continually apply it every 5 to 10 years. They actually say on the website, if your roof is older than 10 years old, there's no guarantee, no warranty. It's like when you go to the car wash and you spray the stuff on your tire to make it look shiny. That's what it does. It makes it look wet, which makes it look newer. It doesn't protect the roof, it doesn't make it last longer, it doesn't do anything.
Let's stick with this.
Yes, so.
Okay.
So, so I can install the best material in the world. I have the best material for a roof that is available on the market. The only thing is, the most abundant material on your roof are gonna be your nails, okay? 6 nails per shingle, that's code in Connecticut, has to be done. By the way, my shingle, only 130 mile an hour wind rating with 4 nails. But we use 6 because that's code here in Connecticut, okay? Eventually, a nail is gonna cause an issue. There are a lot of issues that come with your standard roofing nail. The main issue is what's called a nail pop. You ever seen one of those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you know how that occurs?
How it occurs? No.
expansion and contraction of wood, when it gets cold and hot, that wood is moving. These nails are smooth nails. You ever have a wood deck before where your deck kind of curls up and you gotta go nail it back down? No, you've never had that?
No.
Fence that falls apart? Wood, it's an organic material that moves and shifts with the weather that we have. The nails never last because they are smooth, tapered nails. These are the nails that have been used in roofing, whether they were hand nailed or eventually put on a coil so you can put them in the gun. Those are the nails that the majority, if not all, roofers use. But the problem is, once you get one of those, and that nail pops, the nails are tapered. So once it moves up, you now have a hairline hole in your shingle, in your underlayments, everywhere, for that wind-driven rain to come in and get down through and cause issues, because that water's gonna follow the nail. You now have holes in your roof. Also, one of those is gonna void any roofing warranty out there, because it's not the shingle's fault that the nail moved, it's science, okay? Expansion, contraction of that wood, it's gonna cause these problems. So we went out, and we were one of the first, if not the first company, to use a ring shank roofing nail. This is a cross between a screw and a nail. When a screw goes into wood, it never comes out, it doesn't pop out, it doesn't back out. That's why people use screws nowadays rather than nails. So, when these go into wood, they have a ridge down there that is inverted, so it actually cannot back out of the wood. This is what I re-nail your decking with to secure your decking. It's what I install your drip metal with. This is the only nail that I use on your entire roof, so that I can ensure that that nail pop is never going to happen. So your roof is secured for the lifetime. See the difference in those?
Kinda.
You see the ridges down them compared to this?
Yeah.
Those are smooth. That's just your standard nail. And when you have about 15 to 20,000 of those on your roof, the chances that one of those smooth shank nails are gonna pop out, very, very common. And once you have that, the integrity of your roof is, it's very compromised, absolutely. So, our nails, we went out and I can install the best material, I can warranty the best material, but if I can't control the nails that are on there, it's not gonna matter. Okay, so I wanna make sure that your roof is secure with the best product, and we went out and found the best nails for it. That make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's things you could, you know, like, pinch this with your fingernail. See, like nothing, right? It can pull right out. You know, if you pinch this with your fingernail, you see how there's resistance there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when that's driven into wood, right? And when you try to pull it out, you have these ribs that are preventing it from pulling out. Typically with a ring shank nail, you're just gonna see the nail is left in the wood. Actually, the pulling power to take out a ring shank nail, you would fold the head on it before you'd be able to physically rip it out. A lot of times they're, you know, banging a ring shank nail back in.
So then once we have your nails on, your shingles on, everything is done, we're gonna get to the ridge of your house. Talk about how important the ridge is and the ridge vent. So right now you do have a ridge vent, which is good, which is why your roof was relatively, healthy. There was no mold, you know, we saw that the plywood looked good, but this is the ridge vent you have at the moment. Okay? What's this remind you of?
Kinda like a Brillo patch.
100%. The only thing I say it's good for is cleaning your dishes. Issue with this.
You know,
Okay, all right, no problem. So the issue with this is that, one, when you install your ridge cap on top of this, it actually doesn't extend past the edges of the ridge cap, all right? So it leaves an area here that's never gonna get sunlight, never gonna get anything in. Now, moss, lichen, everything likes to grow into this to restrict the airflow of the roof. Also, when installed, if you were to take a gun and nail this down with a gun, it's gonna smush it, okay? And the more it's smushed, the less airflow that it's gonna go through, all right? And then you put the cap shingle on top of it, and you're gonna nail the cap shingle down, you're gonna get more smushing, and then God forbid somebody walks on top of this, smushes it again. These things do not allow proper airflow from the day they are installed. They also, say you were to get that heavy storm and that wind-driven rain, and it rips off one of these cap shingles and this is left on your roof, do you think this is gonna protect you from any water coming through?
No.
Okay, you can see right through it, it's gonna cause a lot of issues. These come in a big roll, they just roll them out on the roof, they fold them over the ridge like this, and then they nail them in, and it automatically squishes. These things do not work at the efficiency that they're supposed to, and it can leave you vulnerable to that airflow in your attic that is so necessary to the health of your house. So we go and we install our shingle vent 2. Okay, can you see the difference between these two?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Ours is a lot wider. Ours is also made of solid polypropylene plastic. Polypropylene, it's UV resistant, it's never gonna crack, it's never gonna break down, okay? It has lines on the top of it to ensure that depending on the pitch of your roof, we know how wide your ridge should be, the cut in between the two pieces of plywood for maximum airflow. This gets hand nailed with a 3-inch ring shank nail into the joists of your house to ensure that it is secured. The reason you hand nail it is because if you put a nail gun through this, it's just gonna blow the nail right through it and you're gonna cause issues. Now these come in 4-foot pieces, okay, so they go every 4 feet, and every time we get another piece, we put our tape down on it, okay, because I don't want any water or anything to, if God forbid a cap nail or a cap shingle comes off, I don't want any opening there. On the back, you have a fiberglass mesh here to ensure that no bugs are gonna get in your attic, nothing along those lines. It's got really nice supports here, so when the shingle goes on, it's not gonna bend down, it's not gonna break, it's not gonna crack. And now, as I said, the cap shingle, when it goes on top, as you can see, it extends over past it. So when it's bent like this, on the top of it, this is gonna prevent water blowback from coming in. It's gonna secure it. It's got this one doesn't have it, but it allows the water to drip through it, so there's no issues with water blowing back under the roof that this can have.
Okay.
And this is, we designed this, so nobody else really has it, okay? Then we go and we install our cap shingles, okay? Okay, your cap shingles, they're really important, all right? There's the least of these on your roof than anything else. However, the ridge of your house is where all the wind meets, okay? So when you get wind coming from the top, coming from the bottom, coming from everywhere around, it can lift up your cap shingles and cause issues and rip them off, and then you got a leak at the top of your roof. So we wanted to make sure we used a bigger, thicker cap shingle. What can you see the difference between these two?
More overlap?
More overlap, absolutely. So when you install it, it's gonna be thicker here, and it's gonna create more support on the next one over, because they sit just like this. Otherwise, you can also see big globs of tar here instead of one small line, all right? So they're gonna seal better. And the top extends further up as well, all right? Just adds extra strength on the back end, so that if, God forbid, you get a wind, there's more support back here, so it's not gonna go anywhere. And then, what was I gonna-
Length?
Actually, if you look at these edges here, okay, these edges are actually really important. For those hips, a lot of times there's a lot more waste because you actually have to cut these, and then you can screw them up and there's not as much there. So these are actually designed for your hips on your sides of your roof, so that you can have better security where your hips are, which are a very vulnerable spot to your roof as well. And they are a longer, wider shingle as well, made from the same thicknesses as the shingles themselves. These are made to match your shingles so that it looks seamless on your roof. They are specifically designed for the ridges and the hips of your house to ensure that no shingles will fly off and you don't get, damage from storms.
Okay.
Okay? Then we go to the rest of the roof, everything we talked about. Details matter. This is all well and good, but if I don't flash your chimney properly, not gonna matter. if I use the same pipe boots that everybody else uses, it's not gonna matter. This is very easy to booklet, but, so, your chimney, what we do is we take our ice and water barrier, we wrap it up the chimney, okay, then I take step flashing and I put it down the chimney. Step flashing is a little L-bend piece of metal that goes down to prevent water from coming in. Then I'm gonna take and grind raglets into the chimney with a masonry saw type thing, fold lead, push it into those, and then seal it with the masonry sealant, okay? I actually warranty that your chimney is not gonna leak for 50 years, your chimney flashing, that is, okay? Sound like,
Very good.
Sound like something you're good with? Your boots, these are a very, very vulnerable area as well. These are the pipe boots you have right now, okay? The problem with that pipe boot is, it's only got a 7-year warranty to it. Okay, so I can put a 50-year roof on your house, but if I put a 7-year boot, what if that leaks?
I don't know, I'm calling you.
Well, it's only got a 7-year warranty to it. At 10 years, if it leaks, if it cracks down, because that's rubber, rubber's an organic material, the UV rays break down that boot. And if it leaks, it's not covered under any shingle warranty. And as I said, the majority of roofers are out of business within 7 years. So who's gonna take care of that?
You?
Me, I'll take care of it, but that's because I'm using this. This is a perma boot. This is made from polypropylene plastic. It's 3 pieces. It's made from 3 pieces. This is put in, glued on. It sits over the pipe, it fits the pipe, it can handle the angles, it gets sealed, and it's UV resistant for 50 years, okay? I guarantee this pipe will never, or this pipe boot will never break down for 50 years of the lifetime of this roof, as long as you own this home, okay? I'm not putting a 7 to 10 year piece of material on your roof when I'm gonna tell you it's gonna last for 50 years. I'm only gonna use something that I know is gonna last 50 years.
Good.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Your valleys, I know it's going long. Your valleys, we do what's called a California cut valley,
No cut.
California no cut valley. What we do is we put ice and water barrier, 1.5 feet on each side, 3-foot strip, all the way up the valley. We take a shingle and we shingle over the valley. Then I take a shingle and I actually turn it sideways. This is something nobody else really does. As you saw on yours, I was able to lift up your valley like this and stick my hand under it. There was a lot of dirt, a lot of grass, a lot of material in there. When I turn my shingle sideways, I'm actually putting a nail in the nailing zone of the shingle. And then the bottom of the shingle will actually seal to that area as well. So I'm creating 2 points of contact in your valley so that shingle won't be able to lift up, preventing all that dirt, ice, snow, rain from getting into it. That all make sense?
Yeah.
Then we get to your warranties, all right? The roofing warranties in the industry they're not the best. They're meant to deceive the homeowners, unfortunately. Every roofer is gonna come out and they're gonna tell you, we're gonna give you a 50-year roof. What they're telling you is that the shingles they're offering you are a 50-year limited lifetime warranty shingle, okay? What that means is after a certain time period, the shingles start to decrease in value. They start to corrode, okay? Most shingles have a fully guaranteed warranty on the material for 10 years. 10 years, you're expecting a 50-year warranty. The IKO shingle has a 15-year before it starts to corrode, okay? But unfortunately, that warranty only covers the shingles. It doesn't cover anything else. It doesn't cover the labor. It doesn't cover if the pipes leak, if your chimney leaks, if your skylights leak, if your nails pop, if your decking wasn't secured properly. All of that stuff that I just went over, if a lot of that is not done to the manufacturer's specs, it doesn't matter. It can void your warranty the day your roof is installed. Now, would you want that on your house?
No.
No. So it's why I go over all this. I understand it's a lot, but this is an investment into your home. Your home is your biggest investment in your life. Most people's that is, okay? And it covers, the roof covers 60% of the entire exterior of your house on average. You should know what's going into your house. Everybody's gonna tell you about these warranties, but you get 2 warranties from roofers. You get your manufacturer warranties, which they all tell you about, and then in your contract, they slip you your labor warranty. On average, it's 5, maybe 10 years. It's what the industry standard is. In 10 years, your roof is really only gonna be worth about $400 compared to what you're gonna be paying today. Does that make sense at all?
Not really.
Not really, right? So because the shingles, say you you buy a roof, and they give you a 50-year warranty. That 50-year warranty is only on the shingles. If your shingles cost you $4,000 today, in 10 years, they are only worth 10% what you paid for, $400. And statistically, the roofer who installed it will no longer be in business. So if something goes wrong with those shingles, and the manufacturer actually says, yes, go ahead, we're gonna approve this insurance claim, they're gonna give you $400 for your roof. That's not a good business deal, is it? No. Brown Roofing offers you a warranty that is 50 years, non-prorated, fully transferable on all material, all labor, all craftsmanship, chimneys, pipes, nails, you name it. Everything on this roof is warranted by me, non-prorated for 50 years. So if anything should ever happen to this roof again, that is something that wouldn't be covered under insurance, any damage caused, act of God, animals, stuff like that, foot traffic, you know, or winds over 130 miles an hour, we will cover your roof 100% for free. How does that sound?
Amazing.
Amazing? Any questions about the warranty that you might have?
Well, you know, I'm kind of, you know, just, getting quotes.
I understand. Well, let's go over some things first. Oh. And then the shingles come in all those colors that I don't help you choose, because if you hate the color I picked for you, it's my fault and I gotta replace your roof.
Okay, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, my boss once yelled at me about that.
Okay, I bet. Hey, so when you guys are getting into this, like I feel like this kind of went a little squirrely, man, but when you, because there's solid points to product, man, you know, and then there's like long distance, you know, this ridge vent, right? We have stoppers on the back. It's hand nailed to ensure that the most vulnerable spot of the house is secure by a hand nail, ring shank, 2-inch nail, hand driven the whole way across. This vent here, when you actually put a nail into this, it can, as you can see, there is no stopper, right? So when a nail is driven through this with a pneumatic nailer at 90 PSI, it's gonna blow through the vent, let alone the shingle. When you put this on, if you could imagine right now putting a nail through this with a pneumatic nailer, it's gonna dimple through this shingle a little bit. There is some quality control that needs to happen with the amount of PSI that's coming into a gun. If you're working on a roof with 6 guys using a nailer, you know, and all 6 guys stop nailing, now you have all the air going to your gun because you're the last guy on the ridge putting the caps on. It's a very squirrely place to be with a pneumatic nailer. Our ridge vent, to ensure that this doesn't happen, we have these stoppers on the back. We have designated areas to actually put a nail to ensure that this doesn't come off, as well as hand nailing all the other products. There's a couple things that I highly recommend you guys do when you're inside the house to truly get this to separate from the others. If you bring this over to the sink and you turn a faucet on and you let some water pour through this, you will see, when we talk about like making that ridge and the decking itself bulletproof, right? When we strip this in, so we have 4-foot panels. When these panels butt together, we strip them in with our seal tape. So if a cap ever flew off, right? If a cap ever blew off and you took water and poured it down this vent, this would run off. The home would still be protected. You take this vent here, right? And you take one cap off. I don't care how you do it, the water is gonna pour directly through. And this is probably the most used ridge vent in America today.
right? So I think it's very important that you bring this over to the kitchen sink to show a homeowner what it is that they're buying when they put on a product like this. But those are, you know, the advantages to our ridge vent and their ridge vent, right? When you're dealing with this product here, the tape, what Jeffrey did when he pulled it off, I highly recommend you have the customer do that. You know, have the customer actually take that tape and pull it off so they themselves can see the difference in that pull and in that tear, and then put the competitor's product down and ask them to do the same thing. And now what you know about the differences between the tapes, which would you prefer we use on your roof? Right, and can you see how, when you need this product the most, that it's gonna be able to protect your home? You know, and we get that confirmation and we just continue to move on. Because there's so many moving parts in our sales process, I think it's the bullet points that really make the difference and can help you stay on course to the differences, the true values in our stuff and the disadvantages of using the competitor stuff. And I know I probably made it a little bit difficult for Jeffrey because I was kind of like jumping in and saying certain things. But there's bullet points. I highly suggest when the next individual comes up, everybody takes out a notepad and write down 3 things, man, that you've seen or heard about the product and bring it into your own presentation. And right, in order for it to be good for the homeowner, it's gotta be good for you. It's gotta be easy for you to do. If it's easy for you to do, it's easy for me to accept and buy. If it's not that easy for you to do, it ain't gonna be that easy for me either. Yep.
How long typically does a presentation take?
About an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes.
Okay.
Right in there. When I'm recording them. You know, the last 2 people I trained, in 3 weeks were able to go through it. One was an hour and 15 minutes, the other was an hour and 30 minutes.
Hey, why don't we do this here? I know there's some in the room that need a potty break and they need some caffeine. So let's do this here, just so we can stay on point. Let's have a break until 11:15.